Hello Internet, welcome back to our tutorial series. We're going to be doing something different in this episode. We're going to be talking about explosives because we've been clearing the lab, and honestly that gets a little bit boring as you go. Now, clearing the lab is one of the more exciting aspects of Cataclysm, but it does get to be a little bit... I think I'm looking for 40 millimeter. Looking for the grenade launcher. I meant to spawn this before we started. I don't actually see it. Pipe launcher will work. So we'll take that, and we'll take a couple of the... No, not slugs. Where's the grenades? I see incendiaries. I don't see 40 millimeter grenades, unfortunately. That's okay. Yeah, I don't see the grenades. So we'll just ignore that then. We don't need to carry the... It has one grenade in it. I mean, that's not going to be enough for testing. Anyway, we're going to be talking about explosives. Fair warning, I'm feeling a little off today. Actually, really bad stomach cramps all day. And just don't feel like doing anything. But what do you do when you're not feeling productive? You are productive anyway, because being an adult involves doing things you don't want to do, like paying your taxes. So I've set up 4 different walls. So basically, explosives in Cataclysm have 2 functions as far as I am concerned. There may be other uses for them, but really it comes down to 2 things. Number 1, whether or not they can destroy terrain, and number 2, whether or not they can kill enemies. So in this episode, we're going to be testing a variety of explosives. This may take a long time. I'm not sure. It might take multiple episodes. We're going to test multiple explosives against 4 different walls. We have the log wall, the standard wall that you will find in basically every house, the concrete wall, and then the double thick concrete wall that you will find in the labs. So I just wanted to test their viability as destructive forces against the actual terrain in the world. And then we'll also take a look at them versus enemies, but we'll be doing that probably in a separate episode. So in this episode, we're going to test some explosives against terrain. So the number one thing I would say about explosives is that they are more deadly than you expect them to be, and so you should often give them a bigger range than you would expect. Now, a tile in Cataclysm does not have a set distance, so this tile does not occupy a quantifiable distance. We can't say this tile is 5 feet by 5 feet. That does not exist in Cataclysm. It's just whatever size it needs to be. Because if we go by vehicles, let's say most like D&D goes 5 foot by 5 foot squares. If we look at a vehicle, they're often 4 or 5 tiles wide. That would mean that there's a 25 foot wide vehicle. Obviously, vehicles are not that wide, so we can't easily say that. Now, our player, for instance, if we're going by like distance for vehicle tiles, you figure each tile is like 1.5 feet for the purposes of vehicle width. But if we think about that in the confines of our character, I don't know about you, but I take up more than 1.5 feet of space. So you can't really quantify a tile exactly. So the range on explosives, just like the vehicle size or character movement speed and stuff like that, it is whatever size they need it to be. So explosives, you can't say, okay, well, a grenade generally is lethal out to like 30 feet, so that's like this big. You really don't know until you actually test the explosive. So my word of caution would be that you should be very, very careful when using explosives because they are bigger radiuses than you probably expect them to be. Additionally, if you're using a thrown explosive, it is incredibly important that you raise your throwing skill prior to doing this. It's kind of like a critical failure in D&D. Sometimes you roll a natural 1, and that grenade you threw will land right next to you, even though you were trying to throw it all the way over here. So throwing skill cannot be understated. You can, if I remember right, you can raise your throwing skill just by throwing things at walls. I don't believe you need to hit a target with them to raise the throwing skill. So people used to just throw sticks at walls until they leveled up enough to use explosives. But that's something I would point out for using like dynamite or grenades, something that is thrown from your character's hands. Highly, highly recommend you raise your throwing skill first. I have it set to 10 for the purposes of testing. Okay, so there's a variety of explosives in the games. I picked some of the more common ones. I don't know how effective they are. I never use explosives in this game. We did use a 40 millimeter grenade launcher in our overrun scenario series, which was like 6 episodes. You can find it on the channel. I'll try to remember to link a card in the video. So that should pop up in the upper right hand corner. If not, you can find it on the channel. We used it against primarily soldier zombies, and it really did not impress me. So I don't really use explosives, but we're going to be testing them out. Now, the most common ones you're going to find, grenades are spawning much more frequently in the game than they used to because soldier zombies often carry grenades. So grenades are probably the one that you're going to find most easily. The remainder are mostly things that you will craft. So for instance, pipe bombs, makeshift grenades, fertilizer bombs, dynamite bombs, and can bombs are all things that you would probably craft. I don't know if you can find them in the game. Black powder bombs used to exist. I couldn't find them in the debug, so I think they were removed. But if you're playing with like my caches mod, which is broken, but it's the only place I can think of that spawns some of these makeshift bombs. I don't know if they spawn in survivor houses, things like that, but for the most part you'll be crafting them. The ones you'll find in the world will be dynamite, grenades, and mini nukes, which I would caution you to just never use mini nukes. They are overkill for no matter what you think you want to use it for. You probably should not use it. It will blow your eardrums and probably kill you. So those are the ones you're probably most likely going to see. There are hacks as well, which we saw in the last episode. The Dispatch was the robot that we killed in a recent episode, and they release hacks, if I look for hacks, and sometimes they will drop, some enemies in the game will drop inactive hacks, which is what we saw from the Dispatch. These are essentially drones that have explosives attached to them, so finding a C4 hack or a grenade hack is similar to using that item, except that you have no control over when it detonates, because basically they will fly out and hit something and blow up. So they're much more dangerous for a character to be using, so I would really caution you against using them. I know a lot of players like them. I just don't trust the AI very much in Cataclysm, because the AI is I love Cataclysm, I love the dev team, but the AI has really never been worked on beyond go after target, get as close to target as quick as possible through the shortest route as possible. There's really no nuance to it, and I imagine that extends to these hacks, and I'm afraid to use them. So I suppose I should have spawned some C4 as well. Is there no... I literally just saw C-4, my mistake. So we'll spawn some C4 explosive as well to test that. I should have spawned that as well. Again, I'm not super up to date on the... Oh, we dropped our stuff. That's okay. We don't need to hold everything. So let's start by taking a look at grenades, because again, grenades are probably the most common thing that you will find. Now, in order to use a grenade, we would activate the grenade. This would be effectively pulling the pin on the grenade and starting a timer. I would recommend you not do it this way. I recommend you wield the grenade, which we will do. And it should only wield one. Yeah. And then if we use capital A, it will activate the item in our hands. That way, you're guaranteed that what you're about to throw is the active item. In a recent playthrough, in our Overrun series, I activated a grenade and threw a grenade, but the grenade I threw was actually not the grenade I had pulled the pin on, and so we blew up and died. That is why it's better to wield the item. That way you guarantee that the item you're about to throw is the item you have activated. So that is, again, using the capital A button for activate the wielded item. And you'll see it says active 5 of 5. I believe that means we have 5 turns until this detonates. So we're going to throw the grenade at the wall. And because we have a good throwing skill, that worked out, I'm going to back up, and it's going to detonate here in a moment. And why don't we zoom out so we can get a good idea what the radius looks like. Oh, I keep getting this message. We saw this in our last episode, so we didn't really get to see the explosion so much. But you'll see our ears ring. We were far enough away we didn't take any damage, but the wall is unscathed. And so that doesn't bode well for the grenade. I imagine it's going to be similar for the regular wall. I'm not sure if the log wall is stronger. No, throw the grenade. If the log wall or the T-wall is stronger, please, this is going to be really frustrating if that happens every single time. It didn't damage the wall. Let me back out and update my game. Maybe that has been fixed. Okay, that has not been fixed, so unfortunately we're probably going to get this error every time we try to test something. But we're going to press on anyway because, again, sometimes you just have to do what you have to do. So, unfortunately, we're getting an error every time the explosive detonates for some reason. That should not impede us from actually accomplishing what we're doing. So, grenades obviously are not good for structural damage, and that kind of makes sense. They're not really intended for that. Grenades are meant to be lethal. They're anti-personnel. As far as I know, and admittedly, I don't know very much about grenades, it's not really what you would use to blow down a wall. That would obviously be something they would use C4, det cord, or whatever to work on a wall. So C4 seems to be the go-to for that. So why don't we test C4? Now, unlike the grenades, C4 functions a little bit differently. You don't have to throw C4. If we go and activate the C4, we'll be prompted to set a timer. Now, this is for... The really explosives only come in those two flavors. You either set a timer or it has a fuse or pin or whatever and has an automatic timer. So for C4, I don't know what this number is. We'll set it to 15. Presumably it's turns. 15 of 9. 13 of 9. Yeah, let's get away from this. Probably going to be a much larger explosion. Okay, yep, error. And you'll see it easily... destroyed. Oh, and it also destroyed our stack of explosives. That's interesting. But you'll see it easily took down this wall, and we'll do the same thing for the remaining walls just to test them out. Activate. We'll make this like 30 so we don't have to worry about what we were just dealing with. Zoom out. Go away. I really wish it would stop erroring every time the detonation occurred. Quite a large detonation. We can see it as it happens. You'll see it easily destroyed this wall. I'm willing to bet that it's going to destroy essentially every wall that we have here, because C4 is designed right for this exact purpose. Okay, yes. Yep, once again, destroyed the wall. You'll see it does leave the pits behind, so you would have to cover the pit, but it does not leave the rebar behind. You'll see it actually destroyed the rebar cage that is normally inside of this. So let's see if one C4 can actually get through. Oh, definitely should drop the C4 before you walk off. See if it can get through both layers of the exterior lab wall. I imagine, again, it will do this handily. Let's come over here. Yes, it did. So C4 seems to be optimal for destroying structures, which is more or less exactly what you would expect from C4. Let's pop back in. We'll try some of the other more common, because C4 is not super common. Obviously, if we were trying to use a C4 hack and we were trying to use that for structural damage, because we can't control the hack and because it won't detonate without enemies nearby, I'm not sure how we would be able to use a hack to destroy a wall. And I've only ever really seen C4 in the form of a C4 hack. So I don't think that they're super common. Grenades, pretty common. And like I said, everything else is stuff that you can craft. The other thing you might find in the world is dynamite. So we'll activate dynamite. I do believe dynamite is also capable of destroying lab walls. Interesting that there's a boar this time when there wasn't before. Maybe we scared him away with our explosives. The wild boar dies. So I'm pretty sure dynamite also is one of the stronger things. So we're going to jump right to the throw. It doesn't have a timer on it, which is a little concerning. And I do remember hurting myself early on in Cataclysm by using dynamite. So we're going to give this a healthy distance and just hang out. Longer fuse on it. It did not destroy the concrete walls. That surprises me. I thought dynamite was one of the few that actually would. So let's step down and try it against the regular wall. Again, this is the wall you will find in most houses. This is just called T-wall, very basic. Pretty large radius on that. It was enough to destroy the wall that it was directly adjacent to, but not really any other wall. So that's pretty interesting that dynamite is not stronger. Not that there's anything wrong with it. And it's certainly, oh God, stop moving after you light the fuse. What is wrong with you? Let's get out of here. Okay. And it did not even destroy the log wall, which surprises me. You'll see it did damage the wall. You can just barely see that this sprite is slightly different. It is damaged. You'll see it has been reduced to chipped wall. The way walls work in Cataclysm, some walls have damage variance. Kind of like, you'll see this more frequently with doors. If you've ever bashed down a door in Cataclysm, the wood doors start out perfectly fine, and then they're kind of cracked and you can see through them because they are damaged, and then they will break and not exist anymore. And then if you keep smashing it, will remove the door frame as well. So there's like stages to it. And so this wall obviously has a lower stage, which is the chipped wall, which is what the Dynamite did. So it looks like log walls actually are a little bit more resilient than the T wall, which kind of makes sense because this is probably just drywall or plaster or whatever, whereas this is actual proper logs. But that is interesting. Always nice to learn something new. So Dynamite doesn't really do it. Let's try the Dynamite Bomb. This is something you would manufacture yourself, because I don't think you would find this in the world. Dynamite Bomb, and it's essentially just a cluster of dynamite that's been stuffed into a can or something. So presumably has a bigger pack of damage, a bigger damage. You'll see here we have actual damage lists attached to these things. You'll see it has melee damage, typical damage per second, and the actual stuff that we're looking for here is the epicenter and the casing mass and all that stuff. I don't know these numbers well enough to tell you what you should be looking for to destroy things, but this is where we can actually see numbers determining the strength of the explosive. So if we look at Dynamite, power at epicenter 938, which is 4 times as much as a grenade, but was still barely enough to actually destroy the wall. If we look at the C4, actually doesn't have anything attached to it, probably because it's not turned on. Let's do some testing. Let's step up. Probably should pick it up if we want to play with it. Let's try picking it up because I suspect once it's activated, it will have that value. Set it to 60. I don't care. Look at the item. Yeah, powered epicenter 2000. So about double what Dynamite is. We'll go ahead and leave this here and we'll go back, and we don't really care about the explosion. And so we can kind of quantify what the power of the given thing is, but it's not really enough to be, it's just not that, without being someone who coded the explosion stuff, the only way we have any idea what this means is to compare it to other items. You'll see it has a epicenter explosive power of the same amount as Dynamite, even though it specifically says it's several sticks of explosives. So that makes me think that the Dynamite Bomb also will not actually be enough to destroy. No, don't drop it. Throw it. Oh, it's heavy. We can only throw it a little bit. Let's get away from it. Okay, I mean, oh, and we're dead. Yeah, bomb fragments are very scary. You'll see once again it appears to have chipped the wall. Bomb fragments are extremely deadly to our character because we tend to not have the best armor. So definitely be mindful when using explosives. It seems like the radius on that was considerably higher because we were pretty far away. I am surprised that it only chipped the wall, however. So, yeah, weird. So far the only thing we've seen that would destroy the lab wall has been the C4, which is surprising to me. Let's try fertilizer bombs. I think makeshift grenades are not going to do it. Can bombs are definitely not going to do it. So really the only thing, people told me that explosives were a reliable way to get out of the lab, and I was specifically told that Dynamite is strong enough to destroy the lab walls, which in our testing here has proven to be false. So far, the only thing that has been C4. Now, fertilizer bombs strike me as possibly power at center 175. That is extremely low. That surprises me as well. Fertilizer is like a thing people use to destroy. Okay, throw. No, just drop it and run away. From your position, you hear. Okay, let's try not to blow ourselves up. Your ears ring. Didn't even damage the wall. Man, so really it's just C4 from a structural perspective is going to be the only thing that is going to take down a wall. I don't know of any other explosives. We have... No, just the C4. Explosive arrows aren't going to do it. Power, where's their epicenter thing? It doesn't actually say here. Okay. Explosive arrowhead. Yeah, it does not say what the actual damage is. Homemade rocket doesn't say what the... Yeah, none of these seem like they're going to take out a wall. I mean, I spawned all the powerful explosives and easily made makeshift explosives. The only one I didn't check really was the pipe bomb. You'll see they do have a considerable casing mass, but it doesn't matter. And so this is where we get that real differentiation in explosives, is that some explosives are specifically intended to do soft target damage. That would be the pipe bomb, the grenade. These are meant to kill people. They're not meant to take down a wall. But things like dynamite, really you would think would be able to take down walls pretty easily, especially when you have several sticks of dynamite put together into a dynamite bomb. It looks like whoever made the dynamite bomb literally just copied the power of the dynamite into the bomb, and it looks like they maybe didn't account for the fact that it requires multiple dynamites. In fact, let's check learn all recipes. Dynamite bomb requires only one stick of dynamite. Dynamite bomb, so the only thing that's different about it is that it has a metal casing, which would make it better against soft targets. So it's literally, even though it says several sticks of explosives, it's literally just one stick of dynamite that's been surrounded by shrapnel. So it's really intended for soft targets. So against people and against humans and against zombies and things like that. Not intended to be a more powerful demolition explosive. So yeah, the only thing I have seen here that actually does anything against the walls is C4, which is a shame because C4 is really not very easy to find, in my experience anyway. Now you will find mini nukes from time to time. There are 2 mini nukes in the debug menu. Which one is... One spawns as active, one spawns as inactive, if I remember right. Nuclear light blinking on the side showing it will soon explode. No, we want this one. Use it to activate the timer. Yes. And we'll dump a mini nuke up here just for poops and giggles. I would highly recommend. They're pretty common. You'll find them in labs. Particularly, there are certain lab finales that have tons of mini nukes. I generally would not recommend using them. Set the timer to X number of turns. Let's call it 90. Set them to a minute 30. Yes. Go ahead and drop the mini nuke. It is too heavy for us to throw. They're quite large. How big are you? 15 liters and 50 pounds. Okay, not as big as I thought, actually. And we're going to just zoom out here and run away. And we'll get a look at this explosion. It will absolutely destroy the walls. Or at least some of them. And it will kill us as well. Oh, that's literally as zoomed as I can get. Okay, well, let's just chill out and wait for this thing to explode. Yeah, quite a large explosion. Got the negative thing. We actually did not die, which is surprising to me. We are deaf. Generally, if you set off a mini nuke, you do want to put on ear protection. Otherwise, your character can be deaf for several in-game years. We've had people complain about being deaf for years. You'll see the mini nuke has devastated the area around it, including destroying the wall that it was double thick and quite far away from. Additionally, we have this radioactive gas, which in general is not something you really want to chill with. We got the mushroom cloud. We got the little fallout aftermath here. Let's just jump into the hazy cloud here. I'm sure it's fine. And you'll see it devastated the walls that were here. It knocked down the entirety of this lab wall and left behind the pit. And destroyed even the distant walls here. Not entirely, of course. It is enough to fully destroy an entire building if you're in a building of some sort, and can be used to be broken into labs. So I would not recommend using the mini nuke just because of their destructive nature, the radiation. In fact, if we look, yeah, we're quite irradiated. And again, our character will be deaf for presumably, I mean, we were really close to it, probably months and possibly years. So wear ear protection, set it for a long timer, get really far away, and then let it detonate. If you're going to use it, I would not recommend it. So, unfortunately, this episode was a bit of a bust because it seems that most of the explosives are focused around dealing damage to enemies rather than actually destroying terrain. You can see the remnants of the walls where these dirt patches now are. So that's interesting as well. Yeah, a little disappointed in how the episode went. I thought we would be able to glean a little bit more information. In the next episode, we will take a look at targets in particular, and we'll try to explain why armored targets are so much... Explosives are good against soft targets, not armored targets, but we'll discuss that, I guess, in the next episode. So for now, hopefully you learned something. I don't know. It's just not really what I expected the video to be, but for now, it's going to do it. So thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.